Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. Too much news and too little time. We've got more mayoral items on the agenda today, along with some tech news. Let's get to it. Quick shout out to our Tier 3 patrons, Peter Park, Shay Meehan, and Nathan Stankowski, as well as all our other patrons. You keep us all informed and engaged. If any of you out there want to join these advocates of humanity first and independent journalism, head on over to patreon.com/yangdaily. It would only take a couple of bucks a month from each listener to keep this podcast and community going and growing into the future. Now on to the news. Interesting development in autonomous vehicles today. While other auto companies continue to claim that cars cannot drive themselves without LiDAR, Tesla just announced that they don't even think they need radar anymore. Tesla cars have used radar from the beginning, which can be useful in seeing through opaque objects or even bouncing around angles. This is in addition to visible light and ultrasonics, the latter of which are used for close proximity. Other companies attempting full self-driving also use LiDAR, a rapid laser light radar system that can build up an accurate 3D model around the car and excels in low light conditions. Tesla has been the outlier from the start in rejecting LiDAR. Their position is that visible light is clearly all that's needed, since that's how humans drive, and any failure of the vision system could not be made up for by those other systems, making them superfluous. Indeed, LiDAR is quite expensive, and Tesla, unlike other companies, build all their cars to be capable of using FSD software so that owners can flip the switch as soon as it's ready, making the cost an immediate concern for Tesla. Of course, efficiency is always a huge factor in the end, and will be for everyone else whenever they start trying to sell FSD. By the same logic, Tesla is ditching radar as well. While Waymo has had the most proven success in autonomous driving in a geofenced area, the first to reach Level 5 autonomy, the capability for the car to be fully independent anywhere, will change the nature of transport dramatically. Musk has predicted that they will achieve that by the end of this year, though he's notoriously optimistic on these timelines, and I personally wouldn't bet on it being quite that fast. Whenever it happens, a lot of people who make their living driving will soon be wishing for a UBI if we don't have one by then, and car ownership will likely see a sharp decline in the following decade as autonomous taxis take over the cities. In parallel with the switch to electric, the next decade is going to see big transitions in automotives. In the mayoral race, Emerson has released a new poll, and it is wildly different from the POS poll just a week ago. This one has Garcia 19 points higher in round 9, taking her from a round 10 loser to the overall winner by a significant margin. There's been no news that would justify such a change, and the methodologies are not that different. Either the polling or this race are insanely volatile. At this point, probably too much so for polls to be very useful. What we do know is that Yang has a chance to win, but it's going to take serious commitment. If you want that to happen, now's the time to step up and do all that you can. We've got less than a month before the election, and it's gonna be a wild ride. Diane Morales has run into serious trouble as internal strife, seemingly over compensation and harassment within the campaign, has led to the sudden departure of her campaign manager and some other staff. Not what you want to see in a campaign a month out from the election. If this race weren't so volatile, I'd say it's likely over for her. Morales has never been within the reach of the top dogs in polling, but has a substantial 7 or 8% of the vote. Fortunately for her fans, there is no risk voting for an underdog with ranked choice voting. The New York Daily News, after the outcry from the AAPI community over their cartoon, have decided to release a modified version of it. People clearly expressed objections to the narrative of excluding people who don't fit an arbitrary mold as being foreigners, so what did the news outlet change? They redrew Andrew's eyes to be open instead of closed. What, you're waiting for the rest? No, that's it. That's the only change. Roll out the mission accomplished banner. Yeah, it's actually worse than that because they even sabotaged that minor change by giving Yang's eyes the same color as his skin, rather than white like every other character. He also looks tired or bored or hungover or something. I think it's actually worse than before. And of course, they completely ignored the much larger issue of othering minorities as foreigners. Whatever blame they deserved before, they deserve even more now. In some good news, New York City has released data on the median donation amount for each mayoral candidate, and guess who came in at the very bottom? Andrew Yang. He's tied with Maya Wiley for smallest median donations at $25. Guess who's at the top? Eric Adams at $200. As we said last episode, the campaign finances are as opposite as could be, with all three viable candidates in the race occupying either end of the spectrum. You can go with Yang and Wiley, who are funded by the people, or Adams, who is funded by special interests. Garcia lands in the middle at $50. And finally, I want to give a big shout out to everyone who is stepping up and putting in the time to get Andrew elected, as well as those helping the Humanity First movement in general. Clark Edmond has vowed to volunteer every day until the election. Prolific Yang Gang content creator John Munitz is traveling to the city. Kenny Altador made a gorgeous poster drawing of Yang. I could spend a whole episode listing off volunteers who are pouring their heart and soul into moving New York City and ultimately the world forward. I'll have to settle for saying thank you to everyone doing their part out there, whether in the spotlight or in obscurity. The world is a better place for your actions. They matter, you matter, and we appreciate you. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Bookmark and share the median donation amounts. Give some love to our volunteers and join them every chance you get. Flood Congress with calls, tweets, faxes, and letters using the Resist bot or Income Movement easy contacts below. If you need help, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, the Mission Asset Fund, or United Way, and don't forget to Yang Daily.